You know that feeling when you're standing on the edge of a massive canyon?
Oh,
right?
sure, yeah.
And you just yell out into the open air, the top of your lungs, and you stand there and you wait for the echo.
Because it's a completely natural expectation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You take an action and you expect the environment to bounce something right back at you.
Right.
But imagine you yell and there is just total dead silence. No echo, just the wind.
It's deeply unsettling, almost disorienting, really.
It is.
Because humans are fundamentally wired for reciprocity. When we put energy out into the world, our brains automatically begin calculating the return.
Yeah, we expect a reaction.
Exactly. So when that return is zero, it doesn't just feel like a disappointment. It feels like a breakdown in the laws of physics.
Wow, yeah. So now I want you to shrink that massive canyon down to the size of a 13-inch laptop screen.
Okay.
You were sitting at your desk, you hit submit on your 100th job application. Right. You've tailored the resume, you've written the cover letter, you've done everything perfectly.
Yeah.
And nothing.
Just that same dead, heavy silence.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we have a really singular, highly focused source we're looking at.
Yeah, it's a fascinating document.
It's a complete video script and production outline titled Turning Frustration into Fuel.
Right, and it was written specifically to motivate new graduates in the sterile processing field, right?
Yeah, exactly. The technicians who decontaminate and prep surgical instruments for hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
But our mission today is bigger than just one industry.
Much bigger.
We are unpacking this script because it actually serves as a masterclass in the universal psychology of career resilience.
It really does.
It holds a blueprint for overcoming job hunt fatigue that applies to you, whether you are trying to break into a hospital, pivot to tech, or, just get a personal project off the ground.
Because the mechanics of fatigue are completely universal.
Yes, totally.
And what makes this particular source material so compelling isn't just the dialogue it proposes, it's the architecture of the message.
Right.
This script provides precise, calculated notes on exactly what a viewer should be seeing and hearing at every single second.
It's incredibly detailed.
It is. It's engineering a cognitive shift from the ground up, using visual storytelling and audio cues to just manually alter a person's mindset.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because reading through this script, I kept thinking of it like a CPR protocol.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, it is specifically designed to shock a flatlining, exhausted job hunt right back to life.
And the way it initiates that shock is completely counterintuitive.
It really is. The very first line of the voiceover asks the viewer a direct question. It says, frustrated because you still haven't landed your first sterile processing job.
And then there's a beat.
Right, a pause, and the voiceover just says, good.
Good, yeah. It strips away the expected comfort.
Which is wild.
Right, because when someone is struggling, the standard societal response is to offer pity or, reassurance.
Like, oh, hang in there, it'll be okay.
Exactly. By answering good, the script immediately disrupts the viewer's anticipated pattern.
It catches you off guard.
It forces them to stop scrolling and pay attention because the narrator is effectively challenging them. They're stating that this negative emotion is actually a prerequisite for success.
And rather than immediately explaining why it's good, the script forces the viewer to sit in that discomfort.
It really makes you sit in it.
It lists out your exact efforts. The voiceover says, you did the training, you studied the material, you took the steps, and now you're sitting here wondering, why is nothing happening for me?
It hits hard.
It emphasizes the devastating result of all that work. No callbacks, no interviews, no clear answers, just silence.
And the visual overlays the script dictates right here are incredibly bleak.
So bleak. We are seeing a person staring at laptop job applications, a slow zoom on a tired expression.
A rejection email filling the screen.
Yeah, an empty email inbox, a phone with absolutely no notifications, and bold on-screen text reading, no response, no progress.
It's a lot.
But I have to push back on this approach a little bit. Isn't starting a motivational message by zooming in on rejection emails in an empty inbox a massive downer?
It seems like it, yeah.
Like, why spend the entire first portion of the script just wallowing in the pain?
Well, what's fascinating here is the underlying psychology of empathy and credibility.
Okay.
Before you can motivate someone to move forward, you have to accurately and unflinchingly validate exactly where they are currently stuck.
Make them feel seen.
Exactly. Think about going to a doctor.
Right.
If you walk into a clinic with a severe injury and the doctor just tosses you a painkiller from across the room without even looking at your wound, You are not going to trust that treatment.
No way. You'd assume they have absolutely no idea what is actually causing the pain.
Exactly. So I'm naming the exact symptoms of your despair, the studying, the waiting, the silent inbox, and mirroring your physical reality with those bleak visuals. The creator of this video builds instant, unshakable credibility.
They're communicating, I see your exact reality.
Yes. They're proving they understand the depth of the pit you are in, which earns them the right to offer a ladder out. If they gloss over the pain, any motivation they offer will feel toxic and hollow.
Yeah, you can't pull someone out of a hole if you refuse to acknowledge how deep the hole is.
Precisely.
You need your reality validated before you're willing to accept advice. But once that bridge of trust is built, the script doesn't let the viewer stay in that pit.
No, it executes a really aggressive pivot.
The narrator comes back and declares that frustration is not a stop sign. It's fuel.
The exact line is, it's the pressure that's trying to push you forward. The problem is, most people let it push them out instead.
It takes this universally despised emotion and completely strips away the moral judgment.
Yeah, frustration is no longer a signal that you are failing or that you are inherently flawed.
It is redefined simply as mechanical energy.
Which is such a smart reframe.
This reminds me of a steam engine. Think about the pressure of the steam inside a locomotive boiler. The pressure is your frustration.
Okay, I see where you're going.
The steam itself is entirely neutral. It doesn't have an alignment. It isn't inherently good or bad, but it is incredibly volatile and powerful.
Right.
If you let that pressure build up without an outlet, it eventually blows up the boiler, destroys the engine, and pushes you out of the industry entirely. You quit?
You just give up.
But if you channel that exact same intense pressure through a mechanical valve, it turns the wheels and pushes the entire train forward.
That's a great analogy. And the visual directions in the script reinforce your mechanical metaphor beautifully.
How so?
The outline calls for a specific pressure or weight visual. It directs the editor to show a person sitting down, visibly defeated. And then, under that heavy weight, they slowly begin to stand up. As they stand, a light begins to appear, accompanied by the bold on-screen text, "Frustration equals fuel."
It highlights the vital distinction between passive suffering and active pressure.
Exactly.
Because when you were just sitting there staring at that empty inbox we talked about, you are suffering passively. The frustration is just happening to you.
But when you consciously reframe that frustration as fuel, it becomes a physical catalyst.
Right.
The heavy weight isn't there to crush you, it's resistance training. It is the very mechanism forcing you to develop the professional muscles you need to stand up.
It changes the internal narrative from this barrier is destroying me to this barrier is conditioning me.
Yes. But reframing your mindset in a vacuum isn't enough to actually get hired.
No, of course not. How does someone practically use that pressure?
Well, the script doesn't just leave this in the realm of theory. It grounds the idea by looking at the people who have already crossed the finish line.
Right. The voiceover states that every single successful sterile processing technician you see today had a moment where they felt exactly like this, confused, overlooked, and questioning everything.
This is a critical psychological intervention. It normalizes the struggle.
It tells you that this massive barrier to entry isn't a glitch in your specific matrix.
Exactly. It is a standard feature of the industry.
But it points out the divergence. It says the successful technicians didn't waste their frustration, they used it.
Yeah.
The script says they applied again. They learned more. They stayed in the process when it felt uncomfortable.
And the visuals match this shift in kinetic energy.
Right, we see hands typing applications again, someone actively studying notes, someone walking down a hallway with purpose, and the text screams, use it, don't waste it.
It's very action-oriented.
But wait, I have to ask, is it really just about applying again? Because if you, the listener, aren't getting callbacks on your resume, won't blindly submitting that exact same resume over and over just lead to a blown boiler?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to look very closely at the precise wording the script is employing.
Okay.
It does not just say apply again. It explicitly pairs applied again with learned more. It is prescribing an iterative, evolving process, not just stubborn repetition. And this ties directly back to why the script normalizes the struggle in the first place.
How so?
When you think you are the only person failing to get an interview, you experience shame. And shame is incredibly expensive from a cognitive standpoint.
Oh, for sure. It eats up all your processing power. You spend hours ruminating on what is wrong with me,
Yeah.
instead of looking at the data.
Exactly. Shame triggers the amygdala, which can literally suppress your prefrontal cortex.
Wow.
Yeah, the part of your brain responsible for strategic planning and executive function.
Mm.
By stating that every successful technician went through this exact same silence, the script neutralizes the shame.
It frees up your cognitive bandwidth.
Yes. Once you realize the silence isn't a personal indictment of your worth, you can finally evaluate your strategy objectively.
So you apply. You hit a wall of silence. You learn more about what hiring managers actually want. You adjust your resume or your interview skills, and then you apply again.
You stay in the process. You keep iterating.
Which brings us to the most cinematic, sensory-driven part of the outline.
Oh, this part is brilliant.
The script presents a definitive binary choice to the viewer. The voiceover says, right now, you have two choices. Let frustration convince you to quit, or let it sharpen your focus.
And it follows that up with a massive psychological reframe.
You're not behind, you're being built.
Yes, you're not behind, you're being built. That phrasing is the linchpin of the entire document.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The visual and audio notes surrounding that phrase are wild.
They are so specific.
The outline dictates that we see a literal fork in the road. One path is dark, one path is bright. The person on screen chooses the forward, bright direction.
And then the visuals transition rapidly into a brightly lit, active, hospital sterile processing department hallway.
But the editing notes specifically demand that the background music must transition right here from a slow emotional track to a driving motivational beat.
Right.
But then, the outline dictates strategic pauses in the audio. It explicitly instructs the editor to pause after its fuel. Pause after you have two choices.
The medium itself is being weaponized to amplify the message. It is using sensory cues to force a biological reaction in the viewer.
It's exactly like the pacing of a blockbuster movie trailer.
Oh, totally.
You know, the feeling when the massive orchestral music is swelling, the drums are pounding in your chest, and then suddenly the audio just drops out completely.
Dead silence.
Yeah. And a character delivers the one iconic line of the entire movie. It gives you goosebumps.
The sudden absence of sound creates a vacuum. The human brain is essentially a prediction machine, you know? It expects the music to continue.
Right.
When it abruptly stops, the brain goes into high alert. It demands your absolute attention.
So that strategic silence, after you have two choices, isn't just a dramatic flare from a video editor. It is a psychological trapdoor.
Yes, exactly.
By cutting the audio, the script forces the viewer to actively make a decision in their own head in that exact millisecond. It rips them out of a passive, lean-back viewing experience and forces them into active participation.
In that moment of silence, you have to answer the question, are you quitting or are you focusing?
And that active choice is immediately guided by the anchor we just discussed. You're not behind, you're being built.
Consider what that specific phrasing does to a person's self-perception during a grueling job hunt.
Yeah, because when you are staring at an empty inbox week after week, you naturally begin to view yourself as a finished product that has been evaluated by the market and rejected.
Right, you feel like an item on an assembly line that didn't pass the quality control test and just got tossed into the scrap bin.
You think, well, I guess I'm just not good enough.
But you're being built entirely shatters that paradigm. It changes your self-perception from a rejected, finished product into a raw material that is still on the anvil.
I love that imagery.
It tells you that the silence, the repeated rejections, the agonizing waiting, these aren't signs of ultimate failure. They are the hammer strikes.
Wow.
They are the necessary tools actively forging the resilience you will require once you actually secure the position. Think about the specific field this script is targeting.
Sterile processing.
Right. It's a high-stakes, zero-margin-for-error environment. You are responsible for ensuring surgical instruments don't cause life-threatening infections.
That's intense.
If a candidate shatters emotionally during the friction of a job hunt, how will they handle the intense pressure of an operating room demanding a critical instrument tray in the middle of a trauma surgery?
Wow. It frames the brutal friction of the job hunt itself as the final unwritten exam of your training.
Exactly.
If you can survive the silence, you prove you have the temperament for the job.
Yeah.
That is an incredibly empowering way to view your own struggles.
It really is.
But all of this intense motivation brings up a very practical problem.
Which is?
Motivation without direction just leads straight to burnout. You get all revved up, your boiler is full of steam, but you have no tracks to drive on.
Ah, yes.
And the script recognizes this danger, moving directly into its final section, the call to action.
A psychological intervention of this magnitude requires a structured outlet. The script has to provide a destination for all this newly generated kinetic energy.
The voiceover concludes by saying, if you're serious about getting into sterile processing, follow Sterilization Station for real guidance, motivation, and support.
And it goes a step further, offering a concrete mechanism.
Right. And if you want help staying focused, building your strategy, and actually getting hired, go to sterilizationStation.org and click the Get Coaching tab.
It visually supports this with a website mock-up scrolling down the screen to highlight a specific Get Coaching button with bold text asking, "Ready to get hired."
So what does this all mean? Does tacking a website plug and a coaching service onto the very end of such an emotional, cinematic journey undercut the genuine motivation we just experienced?
It's a natural skepticism to have, but from a behavioral psychology standpoint, the call to action is the most necessary component of the entire piece.
Really?
It grounds the emotion. Over the preceding minutes, this script has systematically built up a massive amount of psychological momentum. But if the video simply faded to black on an inspirational quote about never giving up, what actually happens to the viewer sitting at their laptop?
They probably close their laptop, feel a surge of adrenaline for about 5 minutes, and then that steam just dissipates into the air.
Exactly.
By tomorrow morning, nothing has actually changed about their strategy.
The dopamine spike from feeling motivated will inevitably crash unless it is tied to an actionable pathway.
That makes total sense.
Without a tangible, immediate next step, all that carefully cultivated energy is wasted. The call to action, to get coaching, to actually sit down and build a strategy with a professional provides the literal valve for your steam engine.
It offers a structured map for that bright path you just conceptually chose at the fork in the road.
Exactly. It transitions you from the emotional high of feeling inspired back into the pragmatic, real-world mechanics required to get a hiring manager to look at your resume.
It's essentially saying, okay, we've stoked the fire, the pressure is optimal, now here is the exact lever you need to pull to start turning the wheels.
It's incredibly practical.
When we step back and look at the whole architecture of this single document, it really is a masterpiece of communication.
Truly is.
It doesn't shy away from the pain. It validates the painfully real, physical reality of facing silence. It fundamentally reframes frustration from a paralyzing stop sign into a combustible fuel source.
It neutralizes the paralyzing effects of shame by normalizing the struggle through the lens of successful peers.
And finally, it provides a concrete strategic action plan to harness that energy so it doesn't just evaporate into the ether.
It walks you step by step, from paralysis through acceptance into empowered action.
And this is why this breakdown matters so much for you listening right now. Whether you are literally trying to break into a hospital's sterile processing department, or you're shifting your career into a completely different corporate landscape, or you are just facing a massive wall in a personal creative project, the mechanics of fatigue are exactly the same.
They really are.
The silence of an empty inbox feels identical no matter what industry you are in. Recognizing that your current frustration is actually the pressure of being built, rather than a definitive sign that you are falling behind, is a transformative tool. You can use this exact same blueprint to audit your own resilience.
This raises an important question, though.
That's that.
A systemic one that goes beyond the individual. We've explored deeply how frustration can be converted into fuel for the individual job seeker and how you can build your own mental armor. But what does the fact that so many qualified, fully trained graduates are experiencing this overwhelming wall of silence say about the hiring systems themselves?
Oh, that's a good point.
Are these incredibly steep, opaque entry barriers a necessary, intentional filter to ensure that only the most fiercely resilient individuals get to handle our critical medical equipment?
Or is it a fundamental flaw in how modern organizations recruit and identify their talent?
Exactly. Are facilities leaving brilliant, capable technicians out in the cold simply because of a broken, automated communication loop that relies on silence rather than feedback?
Think about that the next time you walk past a massive hospital complex or see a help wanted sign.
It's definitely something to consider.
That is a fascinating perspective to walk away with. Does the crucible actually make the steel stronger? Or is the fire just burning out good people before they even have a chance to start? It's something you have to weigh when you look at the workforce today. Next time you're standing on the edge of that canyon, waiting for an echo that doesn't seem to be coming, remember that the silence isn't a dead end. It is just the space on the anvil where you are being built. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep learning, keep questioning the information around you, and we'll catch you next time.